Well, it all started 35 years ago. Joe became the music director, and it's been fun ever since. He has served with distinction, and we appreciate his efforts very much, everything he's done for the band, and including me. So I just can't say enough because it's his last under his direction and leadership, he has introduced us to a wide genre of concert band music literature. He has taught us the importance of music interpretation, tempo, dynamics, key signatures, and intonation of the music he has brought forth. In addition, he has accomplished numerous marketing efforts for the band with written articles for various print media. He has frequently presented himself before the crack of dawn for television and radio interviews. Along the way, he has offered encouragement to non-member musicians, both young and seasoned, to give membership to our band a try. During his tenure, Joe has invested much time and effort into his duties as the music director, and his efforts are very much appreciated by all of us. Before I conclude, there is someone else who is also a very important member of the band. She has remained in the background for the long haul. Yet she has encouraged Joe to continue his dedication to the band, and we very much appreciate her quiet dedication for our band. That important member is Peggy Pellegrini. At this time, without further ado by me, I want to present a toast to Joe and Peggy Pellegrini for everything they have done for the YACCB to a long, happy, and joyful retirement. So please raise your glasses for the toast. To Joe, yes. To Joe and Peggy.
Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts of gratitude and thanksgiving. We thank you for the time we have this evening to be with our fellow musicians, friends, and family, and to celebrate with Joe his retirement. We ask that you bless the food we're about to eat, and let us always remember that everything we have is a gift from you to be shared with others. We give you thanks, O Lord, for you are good. Your love for us endures forever. Amen. Amen. Do we eat now?
So welcome everyone to Joe's retirement party. This is going to be the program portion of our party. Our creative and hardworking, closer yet? Okay. Our creative and hardworking party committee, Susan Danks, Nancy and Tom Davidson, Marilyn Mong, and Liz Moran have planned an amazing evening for you. The committee's been on task for more than a year, and they've been organizing tributes, poetry, music, honors, gifts, video, memories, and more to celebrate Joe's leadership of our band. And they have been coordinating with many people, and you'll see them all listed in your program, who have put our wonderful program together. So thanks to all of you for your gifts to Joe and to all of us. You know, people often speak about quality of life, you know, those elements beyond your basic needs that bring your life positivity, fulfillment, happiness, and even fun. And I must say that my quality of life was vastly improved that first day that I walked into a band rehearsal and with Joe standing ahead of us. And over the years, I've learned so much, and not just about music, but about how to be a kind and inspiring leader. So thanks for improving my quality of life, Joe. Thanks for that valuable gift.
Hi, I'm Nancy Davidson. I play French horn in our band for 23 years. And I'm going to read this poem. I have to give credit to my husband, Tom Davidson, for the title, Not Your Average Joe. Our band is like a family. Each of us plays a part. But Joe takes on many roles to fulfill his mission. He's made it clear to each of us it's not just a job. As a devoted older brother, he always has our backs, even when we screw up and miss a key change, or play a stinger when there isn't one, or, God forbid, forget to jump to measure 128. As a goofy Uncle Joe, he tells corny jokes. He attempts to make us and the audience relax and laugh, or at least groan. Our expectations are, after all, very low. As a cool cat next-door neighbor, teaching us his specialty, jazz. Some of us with classical backgrounds have never played, but now love, even if it's on a French horn. As a wise old grandpa sharing stories of his past, and wow, does he have stories to tell. We listen intently, knowing that he's sharing not just a story, but a part of himself. As a devoted father, working tirelessly and patiently guiding us to be the best we can be, no matter our skill levels or how many times we make the tempo drag. And lastly, as our mentor and dear friend, teaching tolerance and acceptance, helping us to work together to create a beautiful sound, and maybe most of all, having so much fun doing it. Thank you, Joe, for all the roles you have played in this family. You'll never know how much your influence has impacted each and every one of us in our shared love of music and in our lives overall. We are filled with admiration and gratitude, and with love. We will all miss you so very much. And my husband asked me if I could say the last line as, Joe, thanks for not being an average Joe.
Thank you, Nancy. Joe, what? Oh, all right. I mean, Joe, he's comfortable doing this. Obviously, I'm not.
By the way, you lied to me. You said you weren't speaking.
I know. First, I want to thank you for laughing at all his jokes, with some eye rolling involved, right? He has such a great sense of humor, and he does want to make people happy, and he does a good job of that. Thank God for the sense of humor. 42 years of marriage, still going. Michael and Jill, you are aware of his dad jokes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But I do want to thank the members, the board, and the committee for doing this beautiful tribute to him. It's just wonderful. And I see friends, family, members here. Michael came from Chicago and Jill all the way from Hawaii. And the four of us don't get together that often, so this was a great tribute to him. And then he's so happy that his kids are here. And we could have a great weekend. He's made many friends in this band. He loves conducting, working with so much talent. He does other things too, public relations. So many times I see him at the dining room table doing, I guess, musical arrangements or whatever he does. But yeah, and 35 years, it just moved so fast. It's unbelievable. And our best to Todd. You have a great band to work with. The best to you. Joe will always have music in his life. He still plans on doing his private teaching. He just loves doing that. So many great students that we see around here. And we will be in the audience at your concerts. He continues to love this band, and it's going to be tough. But Thursdays, instead of him being with you guys, we'll be in our den, listen to music, different genres, reading, and have a glass of wine, probably. The band is going strong, and all of you make the band with your love and your passion, so the best to YACCB. Joe has a lot going. He does watercoloring. Thank God he loves to cook. Oh, he loves to work with carpentry. However, he's not permitted to work with tools, and I mean adult tools, if I'm not home. I don't lay around in my pajamas or anything. I'm ready to go if we have to go to the hospital. Because when I worked at the hospital, not once, but twice, no, 3 times, I was working in my department and I got the first call that said, Peggy, Joe's here. He's okay, had a little accident, just needs a few stitches. And the next time, Peggy, guess who's here? And the third, he's back. That was over like 2 years' time. Anyway, but he's doing better. He does use the guard and the goggles now. I'm not going to tell some of this other stuff. Anyway, Joe, we are so proud of you. I love you for your kindness, your respect for others, and your work ethic. And you're not afraid to show emotion, right, guys? You've instilled all that in your kids, your adult kids. So our journey in life continues. Thank you for the retirement party, everybody. And Joe, you enjoyed tonight. You deserve it. Love you.
Thank you.
The following is from Dr. Henley Ho, Director of the Mercer Community Band. Good evening. I wish I could be here this evening as all of you honor your longtime director, Joe Pellegrini. Unfortunately, I'm currently sitting in a dress rehearsal with the Greenville Symphony Orchestra. I had the opportunity to first meet Joe on July 30th, 1993, when the Youngstown Area Community Concert Band performed for the first time on the Mercer County Courthouse Square as part of our summer concert series, now 32 years ago. I recall listening to this outstanding group for the first time and thinking, wow, what a wonderful sound and an entertaining program. Of course, it would not have been possible without Maestro Joseph Pellegrini. Moving to the future, to where the band is today, high quality, challenging music, and of course, real crowd pleasers, all made possible thanks to Joe. I've also enjoyed listening to Joe when he speaks to the audience between pieces, as his sense of humor always brings a smile to my face. On behalf of the Mercer Community Band, I wish Maestro Pellegrini well as he steps away from the podium. Joe, you're always welcome to come to Mercer any Friday night as an honorary guest conductor to lead our band in a stirring march. So thank you once again, Joseph Pellegrini, for your leadership and for making such a positive impact on the hundreds of musicians who have performed under your baton. Bravo.
This is our sentiment. The music lives on.
We've Good evening. Oh, this is. It's a joy to be here tonight to honor a remarkable musician, a devoted director, and a truly good person, Mr. Joe Pellegrini. We gather not only to celebrate his retirement from leading the Youngstown Area Community Concert Band for 35 years, but also to recognize the profound impact he has made on this community through music. I first got to know Joe through our collaborations on the holiday concert of giving. This year, we are going to have this Sunday. Yes, we are excited. For more than 10, actually, now exactly 15th year this Sunday, the Izaak Oros and YACCB have worked together to support the Second Harvest Food Bank of the Mahoning Valley. Through this partnership, Joe and I spent many hours planning concerts, coordinating details, and of course, standing side by side on WFMJ Channel 21 for our very early morning TV interviews. And let me tell you, Joe always scheduled those interviews. Apparently, he believes musicians are at their best at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. Not performing, just smiling at the camera and trying to sound coherent. Those appearances became a yearly tradition. Actually, tomorrow morning we have another one for this coming Sundays. But tomorrow is going to be a little bit later, 6 after 6, better. And I always looked forward to them, not because I enjoy being on live TV and then getting up, for something and then going to downtown TV station at 5:30 arriving, but because I knew I would be sharing that moment with Joe for a truly meaningful cause. Over the years, I've come to appreciate Joe's kindness, humility, and genuine warmth. He connects easily with people, as you all know, whether backstage, during meetings, or in those quiet minutes before a performance. And during concerts, when he shared program notes with the audience, his stories are always thoughtful, engaging, and often touched with just the right amount of humor. It's one of the things you can laugh, and we all treasure about him. And believe me, we are going to miss that. What truly sets Joe apart, though, is his heart for service. He makes music not just for applause, but to bring people together and to uplift the community. Year after year, the Holiday Concert of Giving has helped countless families in the Mahoning Valley, and Joe's steady leadership has been central to that mission. His dedication has strengthened not only our organizations, but also our friendship. I am grateful to call Joe a collaborator, and even more grateful to call him a friend. He is a person of integrity, compassion, and deep commitment. And it has been an honor to work alongside Joe. Joe, tonight we celebrate your artistry, your generosity, and the many lives you have touched. Your influence will continue long after today and this Sunday performance, echoing in every concert, every musician you have inspired, and every audience member whose heart was lifted by your work. Thank you for your friendship, your humor, and your years of service. You have made a lasting mark on this community and on all of us. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Joe, you've received a lot of accolades tonight. A lot of great things have said about you. They took my material, so I'm just going to say ditto. Ditto to what everybody said tonight. Looking at the crowd tonight, look at this big crowd here. They all care about you, Joe. All of them care about you. You know why? Because you care about people. And I've known that about you ever since the first time I met you, when you were still at Austintown School, and you invited me to come because you wanted to have a fundraiser for the food bank because you believed in the mission. So you care, these people care because you care. You're a great person. I'm glad you're my friend, Joe. Thank you. You're going to take home with you tonight something that we want, the food bank wants to give you, a remembrance of what you've done, and it's the Food Bank Hero Award of 2025. Inscribed on that piece of, I think it's art, I hope you will put that with all of your other accomplishments and awards that you have. And written on that, it's as follows: presented to Joseph Pellegrini for his partnership to fighting hunger in the Mahoning Valley. He has proven commitment and genuine spirit of caring through the concert of giving for 15 years. Through his dedication, $63,000 have been raised, having been, and that has created our ability to provide 316,000 meals. That's a lot of food for a lot of people that are in need. So Second Harvest Food Bank is proud to be working with you, and thanks again to you, and to, of course, the concert band, and to Dr. Lee for everything that you've all done in this room. Because Joe gets a little bit of should take a bow here, but so should all of you for what you've done for us. Thank you very much.
So one of my greatest joys is to start a new composition. I work occupationally as a composer. Most of you know that as I'm getting to know you. And people have asked me, is that terrifying? Like, what are you going to do? And it never feels that way to me. No mistakes have been made yet. No clashy melodic lines keeping me up till 3 a.m. No bass lines running into the trombone. Nothing. It's this blank canvas. And a lot of times when you start an organization, it can have that same quality. Nothing, no difficult personalities are there yet, no opinions, no. So the more difficult type of composition that I have is when somebody wants me to arrange something that has already been started, or take a song and arrange it. And it's difficult because there's no room to put this, and I want to put this here, but I can't. It's the same way with an organization. When you start something, sometimes it's idealistic and it's fun and this is going to be awesome and kumbaya, and then you have the good problem of growth, as I call it. All of a sudden, there's this issue we didn't see. Now, one of the reasons, if not the most exciting reason why, I'm still surprised that they chose me, to be honest. When I took the interview, I just remember feeling, I forget who was before me, but it was a very well-dressed gentleman who was walking out with a suit and tie, and I was like, if this is what they're looking for, I don't think that's going to work. But I had such a pleasure in that meeting when I talked with Karen, and I forget how long our meeting went. It was supposed to be 45 minutes, and I think we were there for an hour and a half or something like that. And what I've observed is this finely tuned organization of passionate people who are excited to be here, who are impacted personally by this band. Not just the notes, but the things in between the notes, the stories of all of you and what this band means. So what Joe has crafted, 35 years is a long time to do anything. So on one hand, these are some pretty big shoes to fill. On the other hand, they have been crafted and cultivated and grounded with a foundation that I'm walking into that is a pleasure to do this. So, Joe, I have 3 gifts for you. Where is he? Oh, he's back there. He left. I have 3 gifts that I'd like to give to you, and the first one I think is the most important. Joe, I give you my word that I will conduct this band with the integrity, the honesty, and the relational equity, and with passion that you have demonstrated. I give you my word that will happen. This band will grow and we will thrive. I'm not you, and I don't know if I'll have to work on I can't give you my word that my jokes will be quite as good. I will have to work on that, but there's a lot of trainers here who can show me how to do it. But my first gift to you is my word that the legacy that you have created, it will continue, I promise, Joe. I might invite you to rehearsal once in a while if you guys would like him to show up on it. Can you hold this real quick? My second gift to you is something pretty profoundly anecdotal. We had Joe's final rehearsal. Think about that. How many times have you approached the podium for rehearsal? I mean, 1,000? I mean, a lot. And the emotions, a lot of you saw that clip we posted on our Facebook page of everybody standing. I mean, that's real. So I did sneak a camera behind Joe, and we took a little picture of our group that I had framed for you of our final rehearsal together. So, Joe, this is from all of us to you. Then, if Crystal and Ron could come help me move the table. Oops. I wasn't able to get the AI hologram version that you said you were running out of room to put it on your ceiling, so this will have to do. I've gotten to know Joe over the past several months, and it's been a really neat journey, learning the details of his life, and sometimes I did have to pry out information from him, but what revealed itself was a kind-hearted, humble man with adventures to tell, and I'm sure there's many more stories. So, I'd like to present, this is my humble offering to Joe. I'd like to just give a lot of feedback with a microphone. This will be online. We will post it on our Facebook, but this is a short little tribute to him titled Standing Ovation, 35 Years with Joe.
First time I ever met Joe, I was a high school student, and I went to the YSU Jazz concert. It was at the old recital hall, and I went with my friend Don Bartholomew, and we watched the YSU Jazz Band play, and I was sitting right in the front row, and Joe was playing saxophone, like right in the, and some super people in the jazz band at that time, Ralph Lamar, some of his friends, really, really great players. So that was my first time that I had really known about Joe. And then when I went to YSU, I'm 4 years younger than Joe, so Joe was just completing his time at YSU and going and doing that student teaching, as he was saying. I was a freshman at YSU at the time, and Joe got to go to Austintown Fitch. At the time, Austintown Fitch was the premier program of our area for sure. There were master teachers there. There was Larry Snell, there was Sandy Stewart, there was Bill Racy, a really good friend of ours, and Joe. And those 4 people worked tirelessly, and they had the best band that you can imagine. They would go to conventions, and we would see them play all the time, and it was like, what a privilege. And I learned more by going as a young teacher and watching them do that. So I got to know Joe, and we would do some things. That was before I got married, and it was in Joe's in-between period. So we would go on vacations together. It's like Joe and I would go places. Like we would get in the car, and you saw the Awesome Town Fitch band, and Joe had this big white hat on. He would always wear that hat. So one time on the 4th of July, Joe had a parade, and I would pick him up in my car. He jumped in the car, and he would take his hat off, and we would go, and we drove all the way to North Carolina. Just like that. It was like the parade was over, got in the car, zoom, we're going. We drive through the night, and we went to this place called Ocracoke Island. Joe knows Ocracoke Island, really great place. So we had like an Airbnb, I don't think they called it that way back then, Airbnb. We went there, we had a really great time together. We did all the things that 20-something people do. And there was one time we were going out to the beach. We would go to the beach, and we're sitting there and we're sunbathing, and I said, Joe always was like a little darker complected and everything, and I said, do you have any like suntan lotion? Because I'm kind of fair skinned, and he goes, yeah, this is really good. Try this. It's this Hawaiian tropic tanning oil. Put this thing on there, we're on the beach here, the coconut sun's blazing, and it's like I put this on, and it's cool. So it's like I'm starting to feel like sunburned a little bit. So we go back to the house, and as red as this is how red I was. And I said, what did you give me? It said SPF 0. Joe, man, so that was like the end of my vacation there. It was like really, really, really bad there. So that was one fond memory, but we had some really great times. We also went skiing a lot of times. And a person that's coming up here is Dave Tulich, and we call Dave, I don't know if you know that Dave's name is really Grizz. And we went with Dave, and I'm not going to elaborate on some of our trips, but one trip in particular, we went to Holiday Valley, and we were rooming together, and we had a couple of really nice moments, and Joe understands about that moment, where it kind of hit the heater. I'm going to let him think about that. I'm not going to embarrass him anymore, but Chris knows about that probably too. So another really moment was after this happened, and we were both teaching and everything, we would do tailgating. We would go to YSU, because we're both really proud alumni of YSU. So we would go and we would get this little band together. This is the heyday of YSU. Jim Trustle's the coach. We're winning championships, and we would get a bunch of guys together. We'd get like 10, 12 guys, get a little band together in a tailgate lot. And we would go around and we would play. And Joe brought this wagon. He would always have this red wagon. And on the back of the wagon it said, "We'll play for beer." So we would go and we'd play, and it was a tailgate lot, and the championship game was coming, things like that. So, here's Joe and I, we're both public school teachers, and he's got this sign on the wagon, and the Youngstown Vindicator takes a picture of us. next morning, like it's Sunday paper, back when they had Sunday paper, and there's Joe and I, and it says, there's the wagon, and it says, "We'll play for beer." And it's like, I had to let the answer to that to everybody. So that was just another really fun moment. Joe and I would always go to convention too, we always do. We had just really great time at convention, music convention. Sometimes we would go different places. And one time the music convention was in Toledo. So we go to Toledo, we says, we have to go over to Canada. Let's go take us, just drive up to Detroit, take the thing over to Canada. And it's like we stayed out till like 4 in the morning. And we had to go back to this convention. So we're coming across the bridge. And there's a lady at the toll booth coming into America. At the time it was, it wasn't as strict as it is now coming over. But I still distinctly remember we're coming in, and it's really, really late or early in the morning. And the toll lady looks at us and goes, "I know where you boys been." And it's like, "Oh, how do you know that?" So that was another, I'm not going to elaborate on that. Joe knows that. I'm trying to make this a really fun time here. So a couple more things. One is, I had the privilege of working with Joe, because after Joe retired, I worked at Champion. I know Crystal and Sam were in the band, and we had some really great times at Champion. I was really lucky to work there. And Joe, at the time I needed someone to be the marching band assistant, and Joe was willing to do that. And that was kind of the end of my career. I was in my 32, 33 years. I worked 35 years at Champion also, but I was just privileged to have Joe as a co-worker with me at Champion. That was the most fun time that I ever had at Champion. So that of all my career, when I look at it, I was really lucky that at the end of my teaching career, I got to work with Joe. And just like you guys got to work with Joe, the thing that I liked about Joe the most was he was a very kind person, very respectful, but a really great musician. And he knew where that line was. He knew the line of the kids are going to have fun and they're going to learn, but it was in a non-threatening way. Like nobody ever left where they felt bad. And that's the thing, for a teacher to be able to do that is amazing. Like he is just kind and a really great person, but he also has a really high standard. And you all know the standard that Joe has. Joe has a really great standard. If I could model anything that I did as teachers, would be with Joe. Joe's a really great friend. And we're really lucky to have Joe. And I just want to tell you that you're truly a friend. Joe and Peggy, you really made a big impact on Susan and myself and all of you guys here. So it was a privilege to talk to you guys all today. Thank you very much.
Who'd like to go next?
Good evening, everybody. Actually, Sandy, I'm supposed to follow you like I did in my teaching career because you taught at AMS first and then I followed you at AMS. I've known Joe for quite a long time. He was a year ahead of me in college, and then I, of course, ended up in the Austintown schools. And I remember my very first day in Austintown, Joe, and we were in the high school band room, and I just kind of went in to observe it a little bit. And Joe came up to me, Ken, hey, he welcomed me with welcome arms. I mean, he just put his arms out, and I was very actually a little afraid about coming, to the great Austintown school music program. But I was very accepted, and I really appreciated that. So, we go back a long, long time, and as many as you know, we've been together a lot. And boy, do I have stories for you. All right, so I was concerned about running out of memory on my phone, actually. All right. But then I looked at the list of names of people that were talking, so I have to eliminate some of this, actually a lot of it, to tell you the truth. All right, so this first. Little sweat there, Joe.
It's all rumors, anyway.
No. Oh, I can't tell this one. We got another one here. Let me see. I can't tell that one either. I will tell you this, at the end of these stories, Joe would always, on our adventures, Joe would always, pretty much at the end of an episode, he would say, "Don't tell Peggy." So, keep that in mind, by the way. I want to actually point out some of Joe's attributes. First of all, Joe's very mellow. And I think that kind of has to do with the instrument, the character of the instrument that he chose when he was a young lad growing up in Butler. Because the saxophone can be very, very mellow, bluesy, jazzy, just smooth jazz. The saxophone was invented actually to make the clarinet louder. They put a bell that would project the sound forward, and it was made out of metal. So it's actually very obnoxious at times. Matching Joe's character, of course. Just at times, not. No, you're not allowed to comment right now. I know you're probably going to have things to say later on. The stuff I'm telling is true. He kind of embellishes a lot. Like the saxophone, you just kind of augment things. That 1 3 5 sharp 5, you want to augment. Okay, never mind, that's a teasing Joe. Joe is very sharp, by the way. So is the saxophone. All right, that's the. Sorry, Tim. And the rest, I apologize, the rest of the sax is here. That's going to be my only musical joke of the night. So, but I want to give some examples of being obnoxious. Had any of you ever ridden in a car when Joe was driving? Oh, okay. Yeah, Joe, David, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, Joe, you're not allowed to say anything, right? Well, since he's asking, I'll give you some examples. You know, we would go to a lot of music conventions, as Tom mentioned, and we crossed over to Canada that night. But, you know, that's another story. Maybe Joe will embellish on that one too. But a lot of our trips were for enhancing our musical ability. And I've had a lot of social time with Joe as well. In fact, we did a train ride one time. Michael, remember you were on that ride with us? You remember? You don't remember? You don't remember the argument you had with Bill Racy over the Yankees and the Indians? Yeah, oh, okay, well that's all right. Yeah, we'll get back to that one too. So Joe is very mellow. Another attribute is he's very organized. One time, and I kind of think this was in the middle of class, he comes in, you know, Joe came down from the high school, would maybe take the saxophones into another room, take the clarinets one day, and, you know, work on some of the band music. And he hands me this sheet of paper with a drawing on it. Now, being the organized guy, you know, we're going to take a trip that weekend to go to the music convention. On the paper, it was a schematic of how he was going to pack the car. No, this is true, Joe, true. See, baby, yeah. And where you're going to put your suitcase. Where Bill Racy, he took the convention very seriously. And he had a projector, where the projector was going to go, where Joe's cooler was going to go. His carafe, he almost made coffee for us. His carafe, where it was going to be placed. But don't deviate from any of this. You know, for example, don't be asking to stop at Tim Hortons, you know, to get a donut or a coffee or something. And don't, you know, you got to make sure that you're not on the road with him in the morning, especially when they just changed the time and it's dark out and your neighbor's. How is your neighbor, by the way, Joe? Your neighbor, when you were walking the dog and
He's alive.
no ambulance had to be called? No. Oh, okay. I thought it. Okay. Let's talk about the train ride. So Joe, we went on a steam engine ride, really cool, to Pittsburgh, and I think we picked it up in Akron or so. Do you remember this? Do you remember the scenery, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe is very into trains. I don't know if you guys know that. He's very into steam engine trains. Sometimes there's programs on TV. He'll give me a call. Hey, you got to go to Channel 49, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, Joe. So he's got his cameras out, and he's taking these pictures the week before. It was 2 weekends in a row. And he wanted to chase the train and get different pictures of the train going throughout Mahoney County, you know, into Pennsylvania a little bit. And I told him, I said, Joe, I know of 2 really good spots in McDonald where I grew up on the hillside. So wait a minute, I didn't grow up on the hillside. That's where we went for the train ride. And so, we're losing battery here. I'm not talking too much. Gotta keep cutting out. So we would park and we would go wait for the steam engine to come by. Joe, the steam engine starts coming. Joe gets up to the railroad tracks. Now I'm standing about 80 yards back. Joe would look to me like to be 3 feet from this steam engine. I mean, it was really close. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm picturing myself having to call Peggy and tell him what happened, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But he gets done, and he walks down the hill, and we get in the car. What do you think the first thing he said to me was? Don't tell Peggy. Yes, absolutely. I'll get back to that, Peggy. So we go back to the car, and next week it's time for our train ride. We go on the train ride. All right, next attribute. Joe is very talented, as you know. He's the only person that I know that can hit a golf ball twice with just one swing. So he takes a swing, takes his hand back, starts to make the swing. He hits the ball, it flies up in the air. Maybe it bounced against a tree. I don't remember. He'll probably tell you more about that. And then he's coming around and he loops around and he smacks it. Now the shaft of the club is only like this. He hits it. It was his furthest shot of the day, by the way. All right, so he does have technical ability with the saxophone also. But have you ever seen him trying to use a cell phone? Or worse yet, a computer. So he comes to me again, wants a favor. It's like, Ken, I gotta get these hours in online. Can I come over to your house, use your computer, take this class so that I can continue to have my teaching license? Now, I'm thinking, Joe, computer technology, how long is this going to take? How many nights am I going to? So I'm in the other room, and I hear fist pounding, cussing, swearing, all this. All right, I'm embellishing now. But he calls me into the other room, and I'm thinking, oh, what, Joe? So, of course, I had to walk him through, you push this button and the P, and that'll make it print. I walked him through everything. Let's see, I can't tell that either. Jeez. No. Shall I talk about his patience? Being patient, well, Joe was a very patient guy. One time, we went to Cleveland Convention, and oh my gosh, don't get Joe going on Cleveland. I'll just tell you real quick, we were in a parking deck, and we stayed overnight. The next morning, our car was locked in the parking deck. We couldn't get out. And I'm looking at Joe, and I'm like, he seems to be very cool, calm, and collected. And I'm getting like a little concerned because we're trapped here in this building. And he keeps telling me, I gotta get home, I gotta get back. He had a really committed event that he had to go to, some YACCB program or something. I don't know what it was. That's what he was all concerned about. Joe's a neat freak. We have breakfast down here with our barber. Oh, excuse me, not our barber. He's a hairstylist. But we'll be sitting at the table, and Joe has everything lined up. Oh no, well, okay. I didn't realize that. But even at school, I'd be sitting there, and if you just move something, he had a pile of papers there. If you just move something like a half of an inch, he like wouldn't even notice until he looked down. He's like, he's still straightening them up and everything. So, he's very neat, very well. I can tell you some stories, but until you spend time with him in a hotel and everything's spread out all over the bathroom. Another attribute. He is very, very thoughtful, just a very thoughtful person. One day, he contacted me, told me he wanted to come over to my house because he wanted to talk to me about a very serious matter. And you kind of realize how close you are to an individual when they really want to talk to seriously about a very, very important decision in their life. So, I had recently rescued, I should say, a German Shepherd. Joe shows up with biscuits and treats for my dog. He's the only person since that has ever showed up at my house to bring my dog treats. And that was very thoughtful. We come in the house and we're talking. Now I take the dog, because the dog's barking and yapping and everything. Take her, lock her up in the other room where she can't get out or anything. And he starts talking about this very serious event that's coming up in his life. He wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. And was the time that he told me he wanted to retire from the Youngstown Area Community Concert Band. And he was so emotional about it, he seriously was, that my dog sensed his emotion. And I've never seen this. My dog comes out of the living room, I don't know how she got out, comes up to Joe, remember this Joe? Yeah, comes right up, no barking, nothing, and tried to comfort him. I mean, it was really something. Yeah, I mean, that's really how much Joe really loves his band. But don't tell Peggy, I'm going to tell Peggy now. I definitely know one thing that's absolutely true about Joe, that you can't dispute. He loves his family. He loves his wife very much. Joe, Michael, he's very proud of you. And he speaks very highly of you. And he's showed many, many proud moments with me, about you folks. And he considers the Youngstown Area Community Concert Band part of his family. He really does. He really feels that way about him. Congratulations, Joe. Well done, my friend.
I guess it's my turn. First of all, I would like to thank the committee for inviting me and my wife tonight for this celebration called Retirement for Joe. Joe has been a really good friend of mine for a long time. Back in the 70s and 80s, we taught school together for 19 years, and we also ate lunch together for 19 years, which I'm not going to get into. He can have to tell you about that. You all know what a great musician Joe is. You also know what a great director Joe is. And there is no question about that. But at this point, rather than a roast, I want to tell you about another talent Joe has. Joe, back in, I don't remember the year, but it was in December, going into the winter, and Joe said to me, you know, we get school days, snow days, I gotta find out how that works. So he comes to school one day and he says, I was reading, he said, about El Nino, how it affects weather in northeastern Ohio. I said, what are you talking about? El Nino is a weather system off the coast of California. And it could and has sometimes affected northeastern Ohio. So a few days went by and he arrives with a chart, big chart with all kind of numbers on it. It looked like the Wildcat on Idora Park, roller coaster. And he starts telling me about these numbers. And I said, Joe, I really don't know. I don't even think he knew. But anyway, and then go a few days later, he comes to school, he looks terrible. And I thought, maybe you shouldn't be here. Are you ill? He said, no. He said, I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about this weather. I said, Joe, let's sit down and you write a letter about what you found, and then you can distribute it to the faculty if you want to. I'll like to read the letter. Snow days or the unexpected day off. As the school year commences in September, there is considerable anticipation as we near the colder months of the year. It is very important for us as a faculty to be aware of the factors necessary for the closing of school due to snow. The three factors of greatest importance that must be present, notwithstanding, are as follows: timing, accumulation of precipitation in the form of snow, and the involvement of wind. It is essential the accumulation begins between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m. The front that brings in the moisture-laden cumulus nimbus into this area must move slowly to permit maximum precipitation throughout the early morning hours. However, precipitation that begins too early provides the vital time needed for removal and displacement. The weather system brings in the anticipated accumulation, a front moving in from the northwest, the lake effect or low pressure system moving in from the Gulf must be strong enough to permit ample precipitation. The wind element is a very integral factor, often overlooked. The coordination of the amount of snow and the severity of the wind is proportionately relevant to the expectation necessary. It is our wish the information set forth may bring a glimmer of hope and an uplifting of the spirit through the 3 cold days. So Joe approached this weather the way he approaches music. It had to be almost perfect, and it was. And I would like to close with a little limerick. Once there was a director named Joe, a musician who would go with the flow. This band he directed was second to none, and the players he directed always had fun. But time moves on, as we all know, so we give our thanks to our friend named Joe.
My name is Joe Bel Castro, stylist to the maestro here. Between Kenny's routine and the video, I covered it.
Down
But I'm going to stick to script here, that's all. I was going to open by saying what a good-looking group of people that we have here. It is so nice to see, Jill and Michael Jill that I just met, some of those former students, former co-workers, and his friend, I think. Well, the reason they asked me to say a few words is because, like I said, I cut Joe's hair for maybe 20 years ago, give or take. And we thought maybe there would be some good stories from the shop. Nothing. Other than, like kind of Ken says about when we would go to breakfast, Joe being very organized, as you probably know. He would flip the hair off the cape every time I cut hair. He'd flip it off. He'd set the bottles on my counter like this, by width, by height, the mousse, the gel. But when he would leave, this was best. He would turn all the styling chairs at a sharp 45-degree angle, all facing the door. Everybody loved watching Joey. Yeah. But anyway, we go back way before I became his hairstylist. I met Joe, I think it was in 1971 when he started at Dana. And as we saw in the video, he wasn't a traditional freshman. He enlisted in the Army right out of high school, which, given the time, like he said, it was a very courageous decision to do. But then he auditioned for the band. He got received into the Army band, and we all breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the country was now in safe hands with Chuck. That's when I met Joe and enrolled at Dana through a mutual friend, through Tom Mitch and Ralph Olama. Ralph and I grew up together, and he and Joe became friends at Dana. Ralph, as some of you may know, is an accomplished tenor sax man, part of the New York jazz scene since the mid-'70s, a 3-time Grammy winner, featured solos with the Village Vanguard Orchestra. Oh, Joe, sorry. I'm supposed to talk about you. Yeah. All right, let's get back to Joe, okay? As we know, he's not only an accomplished conductor, but a respected educator, an arranger, a photographer, and of course, a saxophonist, kind of like Ralph alone. And I'm going to leave the part out about Kenny. All right. This is what was not in the video. I did find out that you were 10 years old when you started showing an interest in music. But what you people probably did not know is Joe wanted to play the trumpet, not the saxophone. Now, can you imagine that, him playing the trumpet? The problem was, being from a little backwoods village, Butler, PA, there were no music schools, music stores, no private teachers, so he had to make the journey to El Quipa. Guess who's from El Quipa? Rough. Right, but anyway, it was when he got to El Quipa, and he went to a music store, and he was talking to the owner and one of the teachers, and he told him that he wanted to play the trumpet. He said, no, you're not a trumpet guy. And Joe says, yeah, I want to play the trumpet. And he insisted that the trumpet was the instrument for him because, as he pointed out to the teacher, and these are his words, there's only 3 buttons to push. How hard can this be to play? Well, then the music instructor explained to Joe that because there were only 3 bells and an unlimited possibilities of notes, that it was a very difficult instrument that required both a great ear and a good lip, which he had neither. But the saxophone, now here's an instrument, as it was explained to him, this one has so many keys. You can go up and down the horn from top to bottom, bottom to top, playing all those fancy runs, even if they're not in the right key of the song you're playing in, you just play them anyway. And people think you're really good. And that's and the saxophone comes in different sizes. So you can play the little one, you play the big one, you play the medium size, and people think, wow, this guy's a real musician. He can play all of them. And I apologize to all the saxophonists. So Joe took the advice of the music teacher, the rest is history. He went on to become a principal player in the Butler High School Golden Tornado Marching Band, a member of the U.S. Army Band, as we know, and as I said before, an educator, an arranger, and a renowned conductor of the community band. He also ran off for a short period of time to join the circus, but we'll talk about that. On a serious note, Joe, use that. All right. We all thank you for all that you've given in the name of music. I saw it when I thought of you. There's a little saying that says, music is not just what you play, it's what you leave behind in people's hearts and souls and the memories you create. You've left us with countless memories in your career, and you filled our hearts and souls with too many things to talk about. We love you.
Thank you, everyone. I think most of you know me. I'm Dave Tolich. I play clarinet in the band. I've been in it for about 9 or 10 years. And I am so glad that I heard what everybody had to say, because, Tom, I have an Overcook story for you. Ken, I have a train story for you. Sandy, I have a weather story for you. And Joe, I have a trumpet story for you. So this explains why, at most band rehearsals, Joe is always saying, clarinets, you're too loud, you're covering up the trumpets. I can never understand that. It makes no sense. But anyway, typical. Okay, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. When I first met Joe, he probably doesn't remember this. I was just a freshman in college. Joe was moving. A couple of guys came up to me and said, "Hey, Dave, can you help Pellegrini move?" I said, "Who's Pellegrini?" They said, "You know, Joe Pellegrini plays alto, jazz band 1, married, has a daughter, little baby girl." "No, I don't know Joe." "No, who is he?" "He was in the army guy, the old guy that was in the army." "Oh, the old guy, okay." Now, I don't think I could still help him move. And then they said, "Well, you know he's going to have pizza there." I said, "Okay, I'm in for the pizza." So anyway, I helped him move that day. We didn't talk that much. He did thank me for helping him move. I never got any pizza. It was all gone by the time we got there. So that was the first time we met. And then 4 or 5 years later, we meet again. I'm doing my student teaching with Sandy at Austintown, and Joe was there for part of the day. So that's when we really got to meet each other and talk, and we found out we had a lot of things in common that we wanted to do together. And that summer, really, I think I did my student teaching in winter or spring, and that summer Joe and I are out gallivanting around the country. We're hiking, backpacking, camping, just all kinds of crazy stuff, which I'm going to tell you about real quick in just a minute. But before I do that, I do want to mention there was a third time that Joe and I kind of met for the first time. So after we had camped and backpacked for 6 or 7 years together, skied together, then we kind of drifted apart. Peggy came along, my wife Debbie came along, I changed careers. So we hadn't seen or talked to each other for probably 20, 25 years. Easy. Would you say, Joe, a good 20 years?
I'm old.
I know you're old, yes, you're old. So one summer, we decide we're going to walk our dog in Boardman Park. We never go to Boardman Park. We thought, let's go there, it'll be something different. We get to the park to walk our dog, and who's at the park? You guys are at the park. The band is playing. The YACCB band is playing. And I'm listening to them. I said, "Man, this is good." I'm listening to the band, and I'm looking. That's Joe conducting the band. I couldn't believe it. So I said, I have to go talk to Joe after the performance is over. I have to back up just a minute. This was the summer that I shaved my head. I was completely bald. I thought I looked terrific. My wife, on the other hand, said, "Dave, no, you don't look good with the shaved head. You have to grow your hair back." So anyway, after they're done conducting, I go up, talk to Joe. I said, "Joe, it's Dave." He looks at me, calls me by my college nickname, Grizz, how you doing? "Man, you look terrible." First thing he says to me after 20 years, "You look terrible." Well, there's a lesson to be learned there. See, I didn't listen to my wife, but after Joe told me I looked terrible, that was the last time I shaved my head. Okay, so real quick, just a couple real quick stories. We did a lot of camping and hiking together for many, many years. So here's a couple of those. When we went out camping and hiking, of course, at first we were both school teachers, so in the summertime we had weeks and weeks. We were out for weeks and weeks at a time, and that whole time, Joe and I lived in a small one-man pup tent. This thing was so small, yeah, 2 of us were in it. It was a one-man pup tent. It was so small, you couldn't even sit in that tent. And when we slept at night, we were touching the side of the tent, and we were touching each other. That's how small this tent was. That's how small it was. One night, we're on the banks of the Missouri River, I think it was, and we were attacked attacked by hundreds and hundreds of these huge mosquitoes, probably the size of your thumb. It was unbelievable. We had to spend the whole night in the tent. We could not get out of this tent. We were just being attacked by the mosquitoes. Another camping night, we're hiking through Glacier National Park. And as we start the hike, Joe says to me, Dave, you have to put these bells on your shoes. I said, bells? What do I need bells on my shoes for? He says, well, it keeps the bears away. They'll hear the bells and they won't come near you. So we hiked all day and the bells worked. The bears didn't come near us. But then at night, we're in the tent. It's like, Joe, what do we do if a bear comes to the tent? He says, well, the one thing you don't want to do is yell or scream or anything because it'll probably attack you. He says, just ring the bell, make some noise. So that night I slept with my shoe in my hand the whole time, getting ready to ring that bell. Okay, sometimes things would happen to us just when we're driving the car. So we were camping somewhere, I don't remember where. We got up early, it's probably before daybreak. We're driving to go. We're coming out of a wood area onto a plain area. Boom, I have to stop the car real quick. There's a herd of buffalo crossing the road. There must have been 100 buffalo crossing the road. So there was nothing we could do. Some of the buffalo were looking in the car. These are huge animals. Just unbelievable. So finally the sun comes up. So we just sat there, cracked open a beer, just waited for the buffalo to cross the road. There was nothing else we could do with them. There was another time driving, kind of similar. We were up early driving. I said, Joe, I'm a little hungry. How about if we stop and get some breakfast? He says, I have a better idea. How about if we stop at every single place along the way that serves food and have a bowl of chili? So that's what we did all day. We ate chili for breakfast until we went to bed. What a night that was, let me tell you. Chili all day long. That was just something else all day long. Another car story. We're just driving the car on the freeway, interstate, going 70 miles an hour. A car passes us up. Joe says, Dave, there were 2 girls in that car. I think one of them looked at us. He says, pass them back up, I want to talk to them. I said, Joe, man, we can't talk to these girls. We're driving at 70 miles an hour. So Joe gets his notebook out, and real big print, he writes the letters H and the letter I. And he presses the paper up against the passenger window. So as we pass the girls up, it says hi. Well, I pull in front of the girls. They pull around, they pass us up. They're giving us the thumbs up. We're like, oh, this is it. This is great. We're meeting 2 girls at 70 miles an hour going on a highway. So for the next 30 miles or so, that's what we're doing. He's communicating with these girls, writing 1-2-word sentences. Hi, I'm Joe. They pass us up. Hi, I'm Carol, or whatever their name was, I don't know. So this is going back and forth for a while, and then here comes the exit. Joe's like, we have to meet these girls. So he puts the sign up, take exit. So now the girls are passing us up. Their sign says, okay. All right, here we go. So I just take off. Once we see the okay, I take off. We get off that exit. We turn around, look for the girls. They're driving. They never get off the exit. They just keep going. That was the darndest thing. Couple real quick ski stories. So Joe, as you've heard already, Joe's very meticulous. He had this ski routine. So the goal was, when we would go skiing, especially up at Peak and Peak, Western New York, the goal was to be the first ones in the lift line, so we could be the first ones up the chairlift and the first ones down the mountain. We had to be the first ones down. So that was kind of the goal. So in order to do that, I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was at Joe's by about 4:30. We stopped at the Holiday Inn outside of Erie, had breakfast from 6 to 7, got to Peak and Peak by about 7:30, got our gear on, got our lift tickets, and then we were in line to go skiing. Sometimes we were the first ones down. One day when we were doing this, it was the coldest day ever recorded in western New York. It must have been 30 below zero. It was just unbelievably cold. It was freezing. There were only another handful of people there skiing. They were gone in about 10 minutes, not Joe and I. And we skied almost the whole day. Freezing. I can't even imagine what the ski lift operator was thinking about that. Also skiing, I witnessed one of the greatest ski falls ever recorded. So here we are, Joe and I are skiing down, but he's not next to me, so I stop, and as I turn around to look at Joe, he hits this mogul, which is a big bump in the snow. He hits this mogul, he goes up in the air, he starts to flip over, he hits the ground, bounces back up, his skis come off, his poles come off, he hits the ground again, bounces up again, his gloves, his goggles, everything, every piece of ski equipment that he had on came off when he made this fall. It was an unbelievable fall, unbelievable. And then I also had a pretty good ski fall, not like Joe's. Joe bounced. When I fell, I got buried under the snow. You remember that. I got buried under the snow. I was laying on my back. There's probably 5 or 6 inches of snow on top of me. I can't see. There's snow in my goggles and my mouth all over the place. So I'm digging my way out of this snow, and what do I hear? I hear click, 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 click. Joe's taking pictures of me trying to dig my way out of the snow. Didn't hear that one, did you? Okay. All right, first time for that. Okay. Two more stories. One was a train story. So again, Joe and I are driving, and when you're out west driving, there's the river, there's the trail, there's the train, there's the highway, everything's parallel. So we're driving, and there's a train we're coming upon, we pass the train up, and about 10 miles or so down the road, there's this tunnel. Joe says, I want to get a picture of this train coming out of the tunnel. I said, okay. So I pull over, we stop the car. Joe gets out his camera. Well, he's not taking the picture from where the car is. He's walking down to the train tracks. He's only about 30 yards away from the exit of that tunnel. So here he is as this train's coming out. Were you on the tracks or were you right next to the tracks? I don't remember. It was a heck of a photograph, I'm telling you. He took this photo of this train coming out of the tunnel. I'm just sitting there at the car just watching him do this. That was something. Joe's a great photographer. I think some of his photos should be in National Geographic. I mean, I know his family has seen them. They're just fabulous photos, unbelievable. Okay, the final story I like to tell, and we'll have some saxophone music. The final story is my Ocracoke story, Tom. So, and I thought I was the only one who went to Ocracoke with Joe. I guess I was wrong. You went there with him also. So I don't swim. I'm not a swimmer, but Joe and I went to Ocracoke. They have a lighthouse there. They have some wild horses. It's about 20 miles off the coast of North Carolina, so it's the farthest island out in the Outer Banks. There's no bridge to get there. There's just a ferry that you can take over. So we went to Ocracoke Island, and one day we thought, we'll just throw the football back and forth. So we're passing the football back and forth to one another, and the water was probably just about at my toes, at my ankles. Joe throws me a pass a little bit over my head. I take a couple steps out into the ocean to catch the pass. Boom. Riptide takes me about 30, 40 yards out into the ocean. I can't swim. I'm going down under the water for the third time. I'm reaching up, I'm grabbing for something. There's nothing to grab but water. I'm going down. I think this is it. Then a miracle happens. Something came underneath me and pushed me up out of the water so that I could catch a breath. I got a breath. I went back down again. Something pushed me back up again. I didn't know what it was. By that time, the lifeguard comes out. I get to shore. I'm laying on the shore for about an hour or so. That miracle was Joe Pellegrini. Saved my life. It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jill's next. Okay.
Okay. If I'm reading my notes, don't worry, it's not very long. I'm just not good at this. I just wanted to say thank you to point out that Joe is mellow and also organized. Now I know where I get it from. I also want to thank you for that video presentation that you put together. I've never heard my father talk about himself for that long. It's very rare. Okay. Okay, so I'm Jill. I'm Joe's daughter. I can't roast my dad. It's my dad. But that being said, all of the people in this room know that Joe tells some pretty terrible jokes. He's definitely been telling dad jokes longer than I think before dad jokes were a thing. Maybe they're the reason that they became a thing. Maybe you invented dad jokes. I do have one story that stands out in my mind. My dad and I took a cross-country road trip to Yellowstone and to the Grand Tetons National Parks. And while we were in Yellowstone, he really wanted to go on this guided tour of the Old Faithful Inn. I'm like, all right. And we go on this tour, and at one point during the tour, the guide was talking about how the inn closes during the winter, but they maintain like minimal staff to maintain this inn during the duration of winter. So during the winter stay, the staff have a movie night every year, and the guide asking all of us on the tour, does anybody know what movie they played for the staff? And my dad immediately yells, "The Shining!" with this enormous shit-eating grin on his face. And, in that moment, while I'm turning many shades of red, I realized that this was the precise reason why we had to take this tour. Because he knew that they played The Shining for these people. And while we were driving through one of the most beautiful places on earth, looking over this lush green prairie that is in front of the Grand Tetons, my father turns to me and he says, "Do you know why they're called the Grand Tetons?" "Because they look like tits." And I said, "But there's 3 of them." I've learned a great deal from my dad. He taught me that we have an unbelievable treasure in our national parks. He taught me, or he passed down to me genetically, that there's nothing better than a good road trip. I'm also extremely organized like you are. I don't write down like precisely where I'm gonna stop for gas and all that stuff. And the other thing that he taught me, and probably most importantly, was that you never really have to stop being a kid, and that's probably a good thing. Oh yeah.
First of all, I want to say thanks for everyone coming out tonight. I can't believe how many people are here. I didn't know you had this many friends. I'm not going to be as liked as everybody else. I wasn't alive for this story, but my mom mentioned my dad went to the hospital a few times. There was one you forgot to mention. My dad ate asparagus one time, and this is a story that my dad told me actually. He ate asparagus at a party the night before. This was the first time he ate asparagus. The next morning he woke up, and we all know what happens, you know. He went to the hospital and asked to speak to my mom because he thought there was something wrong with him. No one else here probably hangs out with my dad the way I hang out with my dad and watch TV. Watching TV for my dad has got to be, it's a lose-lose situation. If he has the remote in his hand, he can't watch what's on TV because he falls asleep within 5 minutes. If I have the remote in my hand, he'll stay up the whole time, but he's like squirming the whole time, and he can't watch the show. So he just can't watch TV. Another story for you. I know everyone here has mentioned his photography and hiking. When I was 8 years old, we went on a trip to Shenandoah Valley, my mom and dad and my sister. And we're hiking, and around the corner comes a cute little cubby bear, and then another cubby bear, and then mama bear. And my sister, my mom, and I, we ran, and my dad said, let's get a little closer for a photo. Obviously, my dad's last name is Pellegrini. We're an Italian-American family. We should know how to make good Italian food. And he is a good cook. But when he makes spaghetti, he breaks the spaghetti to fit it in the water. It's terrible. Got a couple more here. Yeah. So this will be my last one. And everyone has talked about how meticulous my dad is with like packing the car, and it's very true. And I'm blessed that both my sister and I have got the travel bug from my dad. I'm very much the opposite of my dad. I'm way aloof when I travel. Like I'll book my hotel when I land in the city that I'm traveling in. My dad, on the other hand, let's say he's going on a trip July 2030. He's probably on like version 3 of the travel notebook that he's building. And it's not just like where we're gonna stay or where we're gonna eat. It's we're gonna wake up at 5:58 to 6:01 a.m. By 9:33, we should be getting off of exit 135 to go eat at this diner. They are known for this food. And then like 2 years later, that diner's not even open anymore, so I guess we'll redo the whole note. But no, I mean, that's really, I know we've been talking for a while, so I don't want to continue on, but just a few words. Dad, I mean, you're the nicest, kindest, gentlest man I've ever known. And if I could be half the man that you are when I grow up, I'll be very happy. You know, whenever I get to 92. That's all I have, everybody. Thank you.
A lot of people have asked me, why are you stepping down now? Well, the answer is simple. I'm old. Okay, over the years, I have given you thousands of cues. I just gave you one, I had no response. I I said I decided to retire because I'm old.
Yes, you are.
It's supposed to be, how old are you? I am so old that when I was a young child, I would lay awake in bed worrying whether Lewis and Clark would make it back safely. No, I'm not quite that old. It does remind me of a story. There were these two really old guys, like Sandy Stewart age. And they're sitting on a park bench and they start talking with each other about who has the best memory. So they start going back in time. I remember this. Well, I remember this. So after about 15 minutes, and they're both getting tired, the one guy says, well, I'm going to put an end to this contest. I can remember laying on a bed and having my diaper changed. And the other guy said, that was yesterday. No, the other guy said, look, I have that beat. I can remember being in the delivery room. So it's been nice. Let's head on back to our homes. It was a nice contest. I won. You can't beat that. The other guy says, no, wait, I can. He says, I can remember being in the womb. You can't beat that. I mean, it was so nice and warm and moist in there. End of story. Let's go home. The other guy says, I can beat that. I said, how's that possible? He says, I can remember going to the prom with my father and coming home with my mother. I want to thank my family for coming all the way they did, from Hawaii and from Chicago, my son and daughter. And I really could not have done this without my wife, Peggy. So I want to thank you, honey. You gave me encouragement, and at times you were a critic. And many times after I came home from rehearsal, you were my psychologist. Because I would she would say, how's rehearsal? And then I would go on. And she would just listen and listen and listen. But those Thursdays are over. Now you no longer have Thursday night to yourself in the house. A lot of people in this band are my friends from YSU. Dave Tolich, Joe Kane, April. April's husband, Mark, who stood in for me one time when I was having one of my hip surgeries. Mark's brother was also with us, Gary. Larry McClure, Nancy, Rose, all YSU graduates. If I've forgotten anyone, I'm sorry. Some former students of mine, too, have played over the years, and right now, are not in the band right now, but Sarah, Lisa, and Barb. Barb was my first, by the way. Okay. Last rehearsal, Al and I are outside during the break, and we're talking about things, and just as Barb came around the corner, I said to Al, I started teaching in 1975 at Fish. And Barb had heard that. She stopped and pointed to me and said, and I was his first. She walked away, she took 2 steps and turned around and said, wait, that wasn't what I meant. Again, I don't know what to say about the thanks to all of you for everything you've given me tonight, all the kind words, although I could probably go on and do a roast of that entire table. But I want to thank you all for everything you've done. And I'm really looking forward to Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon, I should say. It's going to be a really good concert, very meaningful. I'm going to end this little talk with a line from one of my favorite movies is Patton. And right at the end, I think the last line of the movie is, "All glory is fleeting." And I have to say, part of any glory in my life is because of being the conductor of the YACCB, and I want to thank all of you.